Hello, how are we doing today? My name is James Stanzoni. I'm a huge NBA fan, huge fan of the NBA salary cap and CBA. So just a little background story about me. Coming from a math background and accounting background, I really just have the biggest love and passion for numbers, honestly, my whole life. So, along with that is my biggest passion. Another huge passion of mine, and something that I think about all day, 24/7, like I know most of you guys do, is the NBA and basketball in general, honestly. Whether I'm playing it or just watching some college or NBA, I'm just extremely infatuated with anything and everything about the NBA. So enough about me. I wanted to talk about the huge deal we have with the NBA schedule releasing. I mean, I think the NBA has done a huge job and a huge effort to allow people to finally be able to not have a problem watching their own teams. I know money talks also, so the billions and billions of dollars that Amazon and CBS have given the NBA definitely is a reason why they made the deal. But let's just say it's going to be a lot easier to watch your games on your phone, stream, and whatnot. So, some of the biggest dates that came out recently with the NBA is like what day you'll be able to watch on which platform. I'm just gonna pull it up for you guys over here. So here we go. What we have here is a watch guide, as they say. So you got Sundays, you got ABC, NBC, and Peacock. Mondays, you got only Peacock. Tuesdays, you got NBC and Peacock. Wednesday, ESPN. Thursday is Prime. Friday is Prime and ESPN. And Saturday is Prime and ABC. Now, I think this watch guide looks a little confusing. Why am I going to watch on 12 different platforms? How are we going to do this? Why can't we just go back to cable? Blah, blah, blah. Listen, I know things might seem difficult in the beginning, but if you just look at it, generally speaking, you could see that Peacock will be from Sunday to Tuesday. Then you'll have one day of ESPN, and then Thursday to Saturday, everything's on Prime. I think that's the easiest way to look at it. So if you have Peacock, Prime, and ESPN, those are the only three things you really need. Now, you can watch on NBC, you can watch on ABC, and then like Friday and Saturday you can watch on ESPN and ABC as well as Prime. But I think the simplest way to put it is 3 days Peacock, 1 day ESPN, 3 days Prime. Now if you don't have these services, you might want to go out and get them. I mean, you don't really need Peacock unless you want to watch on a Monday, so because you can watch on NBC. So yeah, NBC and Peacock kind of go hand in hand together. So anything that's going to be on NBC you could watch on Peacock, but I know tons of people might not have Peacock. I know I signed up for it for the Olympics. That's when they really started getting big, Peacock. So yeah, I think that's the easiest way to look at it. 3 days Peacock, 1 day ESPN, 3 days Prime. Now, something else I wanted to point out was Rivals Week. I don't know how you guys feel about this Rivals Week. I know they started it a couple of years ago. But I think it's interesting. I think some of the matchups are really interesting here. You got Lakers, Clippers. That's always a good one. OKC Pacers. I don't know if anyone remembers that it was the NBA Finals last year. It did go to a Game 7. Now, I know without Halliburton, it's not going to have the same, draw and attention and care, honestly, for most NBA fans. But I think that's extremely exciting. Then you got Rockets, Pistons. The only rivalry I see really there is Ausar and Thompson. I really like the Knicks and 76ers matchup. They matched up together in the playoffs a couple years ago. I know those two fan bases, as a Knicks fan, do not like each other. So I think that's considered a rival. As much as we might want to say, as a Knicks fan, we're not worried about Philly. I know we will love to beat Philly. So that's definitely one of our quote unquote rivals, as you would like to say. Some key dates they want to point out is the NBA tip-off. So that will begin on October 21st. So yeah, we got Rockets and Thunder, and then we got Warriors versus Lakers. Curry versus LeBron. I mean, I don't have to say much after that. I mean, those are the two greatest players of this generation. Anytime you can get those two on the court at the same time, I think that's amazing. We don't know how much longer that LeBron has. We don't even know how much Curry has, honestly, left. These guys are getting up there in basketball age, not in real life age. These guys are still relatively young adults. They're not in their 60s yet, so let's not call them old. But in terms of NBA, they're definitely getting up there towards the end of their careers, and it's pretty sad, honestly. But yeah, then we got Rockets versus Thunder. I mean, you got the team that won the finals, and then you got the team that people are honestly saying it has a good chance to give the Thunder the best issue. I mean, when you got Kevin Durant on the floor, that team can always win. So you're adding Kevin Durant to a team that was already the 3 seed last year with a strong young core, strong solid rotation. I think that's going to be an incredible game. As a Knicks fan, our first night will be on October 22nd against Cleveland, but the Knicks do open up the NBA Prime season. So you got the first 2 games on NBA Prime that are going to be Knicks versus Celtics. Hey, listen, I know Jason Tatum is out, but the Celtics are still going to be a top 5 seed in the East. I'm sorry to break the news to you. If anyone thought, the Celtics are done, let's throw a party, because I know a ton of people and a ton of NBA fans did not enjoy that Celtics run a couple years ago, which I actually did enjoy that Celtics run, even as a Knicks fan. I felt like with Coach Mazzulla, I really respect the hell out of him, and that guy's an incredible coach. So that's going to be a great game. You still got to worry about Jaylen Brown, Derek White. Peyton Pritchard is a bucket, as we know. So that's going to be a great game. And I'm sure they're going to want to get some revenge after the Knicks embarrassed them in that game, at Game 6 a few months ago, back in the semifinals. So that's going to be a great game there. And then you got Lakers, Wolves. That's also a rematch from the NBA playoffs. That was a great series. I think anytime you can get Luka and Edwards on the floor at the same time, that's going to be a great game. Those are 2 of the best young players, and they're kind of close to their prime now. And Edwards is unreal, you know. And then Luka, LeBron. Enough said about that. I mean, I don't have to tell you guys. So I think Prime got some really good games. Getting the Boston fan base, Knicks fan base, Laker fan base. I think those are the 3 biggest fan bases in the NBA. 3 iconic franchises. So anytime you can get those teams and those fan bases on one night, I think that's a huge deal. But yeah, some of the things I like to talk about are the NBA salary cap. Just in general, I really appreciate the NBA salary cap. Understanding how teams have to build their teams out, and as a fan, I know a lot of people always believe it's why don't we just trade for this guy or sign this guy, and you can't sometimes. Sometimes you're hard capped at a first apron, hard cap at a second apron. Sometimes it's not even a hard cap. Sometimes it's things like you don't have access to certain exceptions. Exceptions are used to go over the salary cap. When you could spend money over the salary cap, you create a bunch of exceptions, like a veteran minimum exception, taxpayer exception, a non-tax mid-level exception. So there's a ton of exceptions that you can use in the NBA to go over that NBA salary cap. The NBA salary cap this year is $154 million roughly. So I know I'm not trying to bore you guys with a bunch of numbers, but I think it's really important to understand how the NBA and CBA work together, because we have to remember as much as we may be confused about it, the players did agree to it. It was a two-way thing where players and owners came together and had an agreement on a CBA. Because without a CBA, there would have been a lockout and could have been a ton of issues with that. So a site that I really, the two best sites I always look at are a sheet created by Yossi Goslin. It's called capsheets.com. So if I pull up over here, you have a site like capsheets.com. I find it extremely interesting how Yossi goes through, and he explains what each team has access to. So most teams in the NBA, they don't have cap space anymore. You got the Brooklyn Nets as the only team with cap space. It just doesn't make sense to create cap space anymore. A lot of the players now are extending and they're not hitting free agency, or as of now, they're not hitting free agency. Maybe in a few years that will change, and things might reset and go back to the way it used to be. I know everyone remembers the famous year of 2016 when teams like the Knicks and the Lakers signed guys like a Joakim Noah or a Mozgov. Overpaid them because the NBA had a new TV deal and there was a ton of money going to all the teams. The salary cap jumped up, I believe, like over 20%, if I'm not mistaken. So a ton of teams just saw a bunch of money and spent it all, and they probably weren't get wise enough, and some other teams were being smart and used it wise. But yeah, as we see, a lot of teams don't have cap space. The Brooklyn Nets are the only team with cap space because now it just, you're not going to get those guys in free agency. So why are you going to create the cap space and then just sit there and sign a bunch of low end players to overpay them and then ruin your books and ruin your future? So a lot of these teams are acting above the salary cap. Whether you're above the first apron or second apron, now that's a different story. So to go from the first apron to the second apron and to go from the salary cap to the first apron, you got to get there in a bunch of different ways. So the NBA salary cap, like I mentioned, it's $154 million roughly. Now, when you go about $33 million above that, right, that would be $187 million. That is when the NBA luxury tax starts. So you're not at the first apron yet. There's a bunch of different levels you have to go. So there's a salary cap, then there's a luxury tax, right? So after the salary cap, you're in that window of there's a window from salary cap to luxury tax that you don't really have to worry about. And that's at $33 million I just mentioned. Then when you go above that $33 million and you go to 190, I believe it's $195 million is the first apron. That's when you start to see where things really get to things get really serious then, because when you start getting into the first apron, you have to pay a ton of money, and these owners are not going to be wanting to pay all this money.